Well, it's heavy rain out there today. Perfect conditions to review the game Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain, written and directed by David Cage, is the 2010 decision-making David Cage game, produced by Quantic Dream, released and available on PS3 and 4, and tells the story of Ethan Mars, who 2 years ago lost his eldest son, Jason, and has since split up with his wife Grace, and they both share equal custody of their youngest son Sean. But one day Sean is captured by the origami killer, this serial killer who drowns boys and at the same time plants an origami figure and a white orchid flower by their bodies. And Ethan is given 5 tasks sent from the origami killer, and with each task complete, Ethan gets a clue to the address and one step closer to rescuing Sean. Meanwhile, Ethan's new love interest and journalist Madison Page goes on an investigation of the killer of her own, as well as this FBI detective known as Norman Jason. Even private detective Scott Shelby is looking for leads to the origami killer's identity, but which one of our 4 playable characters is the origami killer? You'll find out when you play the game. Happy 10th anniversary, Heavy Rain. I wish I'd played this game 10 years ago at the time, but I only just played it in January this year because my buddy Stephen Mead, also known as iQuadGD5, kindly gave me a double video game collection of both Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls for Christmas. If you've been subscribed to my channel since 2018, you will know I reviewed Detroit Become Human, the David Cage game to be released that year, and that is my favourite video game of all time. And I even need to say it? David Cage is the greatest video game director and writer, period, and Heavy Rain is no exception. Heavy Rain is an absolute masterpiece of a game. Yeah, this is easily David Cage's second best game if I were to rank the 5 David Cage Quantic Dream games. And I can see why people call Heavy Rain the best David Cage game for nostalgia, as back in 2010 this game was truly ahead of its time. Nobody had ever played a decision-making game like this in 10 years ago, ever. I mean, these days they are more common, but this game launched the love for decision-making games. This game left a special kind of emotional impact on me, and it is full of themes of selfless acts and how far are you willing to go to save the ones you love. And even though some decision-making games are known for having the odd unlikable arsehole, thankfully there's not a single unlikable protagonist in Heavy Rain. I think some players of this game did criticise that there was no option to save Jason's life, so David Cage did take notes from that, and he did give an option to save a kid in the opening of Detroit. So what is David Cage's obsession with killing off kids in his games? And the gameplay does have some motion control to it, and the motion control where you move the controller is far easier than it is in Detroit. There are also times where you need to swerve the stick on the controller around for a character action and press one of the buttons at the same time. There's one level where you need to press 6 freaking buttons at once, and the quick time events in the fight scenes are rapid, and there are even some points where you need to press the stick to get a quick time event, whereas in other decision making games the quick time events are just buttons. So Heavy Rain is original when it comes to the quick time events. And the voice acting in Heavy Rain to me is a little overly criticised. I have no idea what players of this game are complaining about, especially in the lizard level when Ethan is doing the third trial and he needs to cut off his own finger to pass the trial. I mean, the Ethan's actor's acting in that moment, that he cried out in agony as anybody would. Ethan is the character that goes through the most hell of our protagonists in the game. He is well, a father who feels responsible for the unexpected death of his eldest son, and at the time Sean, his son that lived, wasn't his favourite of the two, so Ethan has just he's just felt dead inside from the day Jason dies, and he's just felt like a failure for the past 2 years, but once Sean is taken by the origami killer, that's when Ethan finally moves on from grieving and takes charge and is willing to do 5 suicidal tasks to get Sean back. And because he's having these blackouts, he's convinced that the origami killer could be another version of himself testing his love for Sean, when in reality he's entirely innocent, and his first trial is driving dangerously on the wrong way on the road. Damn, if you drove like that, your driving instructor would never let you drive again. And the second trial is the one that I failed twice because it is the hardest, where you Ethan needs to crawl through this tunnel of shattered glass, cutting his arms, and then going through this maze of electricity. That's the level where you need to press the 6 buttons, and yeah, I've just passed that trial only once, and the third trial is him cutting off his finger. The fourth is a harrowing one because Ethan is forced to shoot this father of two girls. Fifth, can you believe it, is the easiest. Ethan just needs to drink this poison, which turns out to be fake, so it's completely not fatal. And this is the darkest of all the David Cage games. The weather conditions of the game is constant heavy rain throughout. So you only see sunshine in the prologue and the ending. I love how David Cage includes the heavy rain to enhance the extremely grim and dark tone of the game, and to help you feel what each of our characters are going through. Hence the title of the game, Heavy Rain. And Norman Jayden is a character similar to Connor from Detroit. So he is this FBI detective with these freaking awesome glasses that can scan clues and check for evidence of where the origami killer has been, and can identify the victims of the killer. And he is the character, I'm afraid to say, I I always seem to get killed off, but he's the easiest character in the game to kill off because he has more possible deaths in the game than any other character. Just two characters in the game can't die until the very final level, Ethan and Scott. But Norman is the most charitable and the smartest member of the police in the game, as the other detective is convinced that Ethan is the origami killer. Norman knows Ethan has nothing to do with this and will do anything to prove Ethan's innocence. And Grace, Ethan's former wife, is a character that also deserves some sympathy. And has been through a loss. I defend her from those that say, she's unjustified for blaming Ethan for Jason's death. Keep in mind, people, she also lost a son that day, not just Ethan. She's just as sympathetic as Ethan and has the exact same thoughts. So especially in that scene in the police station when she breaks down and cries and she's like, I miss him so much. It sucks that the game just gives her literally 3 scenes and they just forget about her in the ending. That would be one of my nitpicks with the ending. That Grace should have had more closure. Maybe she should have found a new love interest. And Madison Paige is no contest my personal favourite character in the entire game. She may be not just my favourite female character in a video game, but my favourite video game character of all time. David Cage is the best at strong women in video games, and each of the female characters in Heavy Rain are all strong role models, and Madison may have less levels in the game than the other playable characters. She just has 11 playable levels, but yet her levels are the best. But I love how she is the first to find out who the origami killer is, and she can be the one to save Sean in the final level. I always make sure to make her be the hero of the game, and she is thoughtful, and everything about her is the Grey sister. She's resourceful, thoughtful, and extremely kind to Ethan. She's had sleepless nights, so motels are the places where she can get some sleep, and when she meets Ethan, even though he's a stranger, she immediately nurses his wounds from the trial. And Madison is the one female character in a game I have ever seen get some nude scenes. Yes, Heavy Rain is the one game I have played with nudity in it, like Madison's shower scene in her introduction level. That's the best level in the entire game. And then the level where she goes to the Blue Lagoon strip club to interrogate this dude known as Puckle, where she squeezes his balls to get information from him, and then she and Ethan literally have a sex scene. No other David Cage game has had that sort of content since Heavy Rain. So yeah, Madison, she would be my favourite video game heroine, and the other heroine of this game would be Lauren, Scott Shelby's partner, who she's a grieving mother who lost her son to the origami killer. Even though Lauren is a non-playable character and she doesn't get any fight scenes like Madison does, she is still, she's still such an awesome mother figure. I mean, her son Johnny was lucky to have her, as she is willing to go to the ends of the earth to bring her son's murderer to justice. I can see why some would have rathered Lauren be the heroine of the game instead of Madison, as Lauren does kind of have more motivation than Madison does to avenge her son. I wouldn't have minded if Lauren was a playable character, but but that doesn't detract from how great her character is whatsoever. And Scott Shelby isn't the private detective as he may seem. Yeah, plot twist, Scott is the origami killer. And that is the most shocking revelation in video game history, and Scott is easily the greatest David Cage villain. He has the most compelling backstory for a villain in a game I have ever seen. His twin brother John, one day when they were playing in a construction site, drowned because their abusive drunken father refused to save his brother, and that shaped Scott into becoming the origami killer and drowning all these other boys whenever it rains, and leaving these trials for their fathers to rescue them, as he is determined to find a father out there who is willing to save his son. So you can sympathise with Scott for losing his brother and having a shitty father, but that's no excuse to become a murderer. He should have thought, oh, I may have had a bad father, but I have an awesome mother, because his mum, Anne Shepherd, who Madison visits in the hospital, she seems like a sweetheart, and she's the one that taught Scott how to make origami figures in his childhood. And when Lauren does find out that Scott was the origami killer all this time, and she was literally partnering with her son's murderer, she can have an ending where she spits on his grave. The game's visuals are still spellbinding 10 years later, looking as photorealistic as David Cage games can be, even though this is no longer the best looking of the David Cage games. And the game is 53 levels long, so one of the longest games ever made. It taking around 8 to 10 hours to complete the full gameplay, and so you certainly get your money's worth. Also, the soundtrack is wonderful. After you play a Heavy Rain, you will want the soundtrack, especially Painful Memories. That is the game's most beautiful theme by far. So overall, Heavy Rain is a game I heavily love. And if you're a game lover and you haven't played Heavy Rain, you are depriving yourself of a true work of art.
I give Heavy Rain 5 stars out of 5. Best game ever.
We'll most likely see the 6th David Cage game in 2023, as they are often released 5 years apart from one another. Well, I love you guys, thank you for watching, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and what are your thoughts on Heavy Rain, and what's your favourite David Cage game? Please comment and let me know. Please like this video and subscribe, but please follow me on Twitter and on Instagram, and I'll see you next time when I continue the James Bond reviews, and I'll also be reviewing Call of the Wild, and remember, movies are us. Bye guys.